Welcome you guys to a Friday. It's Friday here on the watch party here. As you guys step into the building, the music is playing, the drinks are flowing. That is if you brought something, because we're too cheap to be providing the drinks for you guys. And as a matter of fact, you never know what it is you guys may want to drink on, or if you don't really drink, maybe it's something else you partake in to kind of escape the nonsense of every week as we fall into a Friday. So as usual, and I think as the opposition is building for me, I'm trying a new one. Do you guys look at the posts on the watch list channel? Because I don't do it very often. I definitely try to do it every Friday, and it's become a theme now. I got a new one. Do you guys see that one? What is that? Let me see. It's in the dark now. It's called Full Throttle. I've seen this before. It's another energy drink, and it's one of those things that you guys keep telling me to stop drinking. And I hear you, and believe me, you're right. But I'll stop sooner or later. At some point, it'll stop. I guess my mother will have to call me or something and tell me to stop drinking these damn things. It's just there's a few more I want to try. We'll see how this works. I'll let you guys know as it happens. But let everybody know how you guys are feeling. Also, let other folks know if you're enjoying this to like this stream, share it, and also when these go back up over on the page, do the same thing. Like it, share it, and of course, subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Anybody know about this one? I mentioned over on Lisa Dotson, Can I Drink These? I mentioned over on the post that I did on this that it looks like a MAGA t-shirt, and I'm worried it's going to taste like one. It's got eagle wings and full throttle. All it needs is I think it has American flags too. I can't take it out of the koozie now. But you guys probably know. It's just a little something to get us started on the day, which is going to be a little bit frustrating and maybe eye-opening for some of you guys. We're looking at the Nazification of America, which was kind of always been that way, but the mainstreaming, the mainstreaming of the Nazification of America and the way that they're implementing their policies, their thought processes, and the normalization of what is that they want to continue to do to folks in this country. Not only that, we're also going to cover more aspects of this government shutdown, the depths of it, not just the back and forth blame game from Democrats and Republicans over whose fault it is, because as we just look into the policies, which I guess Republicans don't want anyone to look into, that would pretty much be the basis for what you could determine whose issue it is and what is you're going to get out of this. But the depths I want to jump into with the government shutdown is the way that they've always wanted this. So forget the blame game. Now that it's here, what is it that Republicans said in the past about what they wanted for this and what they would then do with it and determine whether or not they're okay with this happening? In fact, setting the stage for it to happen, still thinking that the blame can just go to Democrats and everyone will be like happy about it. I mean, I guess the fascist supporters will. And one last story after that, if I get to it, maybe if I just start without talking for the first 5 minutes. So, okay, I'm just going to check and make sure if any of you guys know about this crappy energy drink that I just started. Chase, it doesn't really taste much like freedom, but it does taste like a Friday. Let's get started. Hopefully these don't give me too many bubbles and I have to mute myself so I won't be hiccuping in the mic and then I forget to unmute myself and you guys are giving me shit for it. Let's get started. It's outside of an ICE facility in Illinois. I'm not sure how far from Chicago, but you guys may have heard about it, the Broadview ICE facility. There are protests going on out there as federal agents, not sure if troops in the city as well now to protect the ICE facilities. This is the scene outside. I'm gonna run this short video 2 times straight, just so you guys really get an idea of what's happening in the scene and the aggression that we're now looking at.
There go your comrades. You just like them? It's a question. There go your comrades. You just like them? It's a question. There go your comrades. You just like them? It's a question.
Did you guys see that? Were you able to see it closely enough? I ran it 3 times just in case. So there was a blue truck rolling out, apparently holding ICE agents as they go in and out of this ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois, or at least at the Broadview facility in Illinois. And there's a guy in the back seat, and boy, is he a tough guy. So as they slowly rolled by, surrounded by a bunch of other law enforcement folks to keep all those dangerous protesters away, there was this one agent in the back seat who had his whole get up on, the mask on, the helmet, the eye goggles and all that good stuff. And if you can see it, let me try and get a little larger. I don't know if this works this way. There he is, holding his huge ass rifle, ready to point it at any of these dangerous protesters who have the nerve to say things like, "Get the fuck out of our city. Hey, Gestapo. Hey, you Nazi." You know, those horrible things that you can't say in America anymore. He's ready to, I don't know if that's a non-lethal weapon that shoots non-lethal rounds, or if he's ready to start murdering people. You know, the way that the president said that he wants, the military to start, murdering people in the United States of America. He's a coward. He's a little softy. He thinks he's getting power from surrounding himself with other Nazis. But when someone finally kicks his ass in the nuts, maybe he'll start screaming again like he did before. This is more of the scene that was going on around there. So speaking of these non-lethal munitions that they're shooting at folks, this was from the back end of September. I think around the 27th or 28th of September, this was posted. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but this is also the scene outside of that same facility. And again, don't let them fool you and make you think that this is aggression by these protesters.
I'll be right back. I would have taken the shirt off. All right, who's got a new shirt? Jesus. Holy He's trying to shoot me. Look at you, David. At me. Quit your job. What you're doing is wrong. Fuck you. You're a fucking waste. You're a fucking waste.
Get out of here.
The footage where you hear something whizzing by me, those are like sting balls or pepper balls being shot from a sniper that was on the roof. Balls being shot from a sniper that was on the roof of the federal building where ICE is operating out of. They had a guy on the roof shooting tear gas canisters and these sting balls that were just whizzing by. And thankfully, we had to duck. You know, they were shooting at press, anybody. It didn't matter. Press, protesters, they were just shooting. And we actually had to duck down a couple of times because they came right over our head. One press got hit in the face with one of the sting balls. I got shot in my hand. It's a little bit swollen. So that's what's going on here.
That's what's going on here. It's why also authoritarian regimes like to limit the amount of people that can be out there to record and spread the news on what's actually happening, because they'll, go on their, state-run channels and talk about how all these aggressive protesters are trying to hurt ICE agents. That's why they have to mask themselves as they stand on rooftops and shoot from a perspective where they can hit people any kind of way that they want. But the outrage apparently is supposed to go on the people who are pushing back on these illegal activities. There's a reason why these cowards are coming up and clumping in these groups, is because, one of the points that they had this next video, which is a little bit comical, but also serious at the same time. This one agent apparently was chasing a protester through people's houses. Folks live not far away from this facility, trying to live peaceful lives. And as the war that they're bringing to this area increases, he chased a protester down through some houses, didn't catch him because, he's a sorry ass. And then afterwards hurt his leg somewhere good. And watch how his fellow agents walk him out in the way that they aggressively point their guns at these protesters and bystanders.
They have their hands up! Put the taser away! Put your fucking taser away! Fuck you! Put the taser away! Put the fucking taser away! Oh, little baby! Oh, no! Fuck you! No, baby! What are you pointing at them?
So there you had a group of folks that were outside screaming and talking about how no one is aggressive at them, no one is holding any weapons, hands are up. But as they rescued their boy who busted his leg because he can't run and walked him out, it's like they're coming out of a hostage situation. They got to point their tasers and what other weapons that they can at these folks who are doing nothing else, honestly, except being annoying. And that's what it takes to then start attacking folks. They're not doing any advances on people. None of these folks have been snatched up, despite all the stories you keep hearing on Fox News of ICE agents and the assaults on them ramping up, except for when they're standing on rooftops, pointing weapons at people for standing in the streets and protesting, the Gestapo and the way that they're kidnapping folks and disappearing them. I didn't even talk about, I mentioned it, I think one other time, I'm even talking about the over 1,000 people that they lost. And literally, we haven't talked about it since from that Alligator Alcatraz shutdown. Folks that are dying in those facilities, folks that are in need of medical care, folks that are being treated like animals in those facilities. So let's start with where the problem is. The human rights violations that these guys are carrying out. And when folks come out, they walk around and start acting like they're in a war because the president of the United States keeps talking about how we're in a war with American citizens. All you have to do is listen to him. This is part of their war-torn area in Illinois again. All this is outside of that same facility. Other agents came in. This post here talks about how this Greg Bovino guy leads a group of federal agents, including BOP, ATF, and HSI, out of the Broadview ICE facility to confer with Illinois State Police before pushing these protesters back. So they're coalescing and planning and plotting all of their moves together. Just a scene of what's going on. I want you guys to really see it.
You son of a bitch! You're gonna burn in hell, you son of a bitch! Fuck you! Get the fuck out of our state, you fascist scum! Fuck you, Greg Bovino! Fuck you! Greg Bovino, you're gonna burn in hell, you fascist scum! We know all about what you've done to the people of our state! Fuck you! That's Greg Bovino right there! You son of a bitch!
There was even someone that was menacingly walking around there with a rainbow umbrella. I mean, once you see a rainbow umbrella, man, you really have to worry about yourself. Make sure you pull out your non-lethal munitions and get to shooting at people, because if you catch a sight of a rainbow umbrella, you just might die. What cowards. The scariest, weakest people in our country are the ones that grab their guns first and get to collecting around, putting on military gear, and talking about how they're going to start attacking citizens that are unarmed and are yelling through bullhorns. They're afraid of that. So imagine how afraid they'll be if we actually fight back. This is all a part of Donald Trump's white supremacist plan and his immigration policy. That's why it's been the very first thing he mentioned. Let's not forget, the guy rolled down the escalator in 2015 to start his presidential campaign. The very first thing he talked about was these dirty, filthy illegals that he called all drug dealers, rapists, and criminals. And that was the beginning of his message. Now that he's president for the second time, that is what he's carrying out. Here's this video from Barely Informed. It's about 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes, talking about the reasons why and the basis for his white supremacist message. And I don't know if people are turned off by me saying that all the time, but the only reason I'm saying it is because it's blatant and it's right in your face. And if we don't want white supremacists to be the folks that are running this country, even folks that look the same, it's okay to call that out too. There's whether or not you're a member of that group of people in the belief system, the way that goes, it's worth it to see it and point it out so that you're not also under that same reign of terror. Here's this video from Barely Informed. It's pretty stark, and it shows what we're dealing with and how it's connected to the immigration policy.
Guy, remember him? This is Richard Spencer. He briefly became the most famous neo-Nazi in America after Trump's first election with this speech. We start with this guy. Remember him? This is Richard Spencer. He briefly became the most famous neo-Nazi in America after Trump's first election with this speech.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
This is when neo-Nazis were starting to rebrand as alt-right, but as you can see, they were still super mask off. If you don't know, Hail Victory is English for Sieg Heil. Anyway, listen closely to this part of the speech.
To be white is to be a striver, a crusader, an explorer, and a conqueror. We build, we produce, we go upward.
And that is a regular neo-Nazi talking point that you hear often these days, that white people build, create, invent things, that they're the source of civilization or whatever. Keep that in the back of your mind, but enough of Richard Spencer for now. Because this rotten, hard-boiled egg is Stephen Miller. And he's Trump's main immigration advisor, the architect of Trump's immigration policy. And even though he comes from a Jewish family, his own family members say that guy totally would have been an SS officer back in the day. Anyway, this is a section of his speech at the Charlie Kirk Memorial.
Our lineage and our legacy hails back to Athens, to Rome, to Philadelphia, to Monticello. Our ancestors built the cities. They produced the art and architecture. They built the industry. Erica stands on the shoulders of thousands of years of warriors, of women who raised up families, raised up city, raised up industry, raised up civilization, who pulled us out of the caves and the darkness into the light. The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. Because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity.
Anyone who knows anything about Nazi propaganda know that that was a Nazi speech. Not even a watered-down crypto-Nazi speech. That is a straight-up Nazi speech from the 1930s. And they feel comfortable doing this because they know that the killing of Charlie Kirk has given them a way to dismiss and invalidate comparisons to the Nazis. But holy shit is that mask off, and holy shit should that make you worry about what is to come.
The guy who gave that Nazi speech, as I've covered a few times, I'm sure you guys know who it is. Stephen Miller is the architect of his immigration policy. The immigration policy that has armed troops in the streets, who has collected and federalized local police, who has folks shooting non-lethal munitions at protesters for yelling with rainbow umbrellas in their hands. That guy, because ever since I guess he was born from Satan's womb, the motherfucker only thinks about how he needs to advance his white supremacist message. That was a funeral, a going home celebration. And I guess it was something that they feel Charlie Kirk could have been proud of. You don't have to worry about anybody else talking about Charlie Kirk being a white supremacist. The white supremacists keep telling you that Charlie Kirk was a white supremacist. That's how they celebrated him. That's how they continue to try and push his legacy, is what they call it, on America. The things that Stephen Miller was talking about. That was a funeral. Who is the we that Stephen Miller's talking about? We build. We're better. We're the winners. Who's the we? Who's the we? They're waiting until enough people fully figure it out before they just say, white folks, the white supremacists among us. And what is it that they've built? This is what they're going towards to make sure that, more control is over our lives, though. I want you to remember the Republican Party used to always talk about surveillance and how, all of these anti-American folks will be surveilling you everywhere you go because they want to control your life. Do you guys remember those? Remember those Republicans that talked like that? Now this is what the Republican Party is talking about. More on what ICE is doing to control folks' lives. Immigration and Customs Enforcement will soon be tracking cell phone data. The Immigration Law Enforcement Agency has bought access to an all-in-one surveillance tool that gives it updated location data from hundreds of millions of phones. That's according to ICE documents. ICE reportedly prefers the service because it also peels information from social media accounts. Redacted documents make reference to two products, both produced by the contractor Pinlink. They are known as Tangles and Weblock. Both were created by an Israeli company called Cobwebs, which merged into Pinlink in 2023. ICE has reportedly spent upwards of $5 million for access to the software. $5 million of Americans' money, of the same Americans that they're now occupying their cities. So they take our money, spend it on ways that they can continue to track us to a higher degree, celebrate that they're tracking us to a higher degree, so they can continue to attack us and control our lives. There's more from this article. Previous attempts to monitor consumers' location data for immigration enforcement were found to be illegal. It used to be. A sweeping records request by the ACLU in 2022 found that DHS had obtained more than 336,000 location data points across North America by scraping user app data on hundreds of millions of phones during Trump's first term. Quote, every American should be concerned that Trump's hand-picked security force is once again buying and using location data without a warrant. That's what Senator Ron Wyden said. I mean, Ron Wyden saying that we should be concerned about it. Again, maybe I should look into it before I get to criticizing him, but I wonder what the folks who also know that, including Ron Wyden, are then doing about it. I get he made a statement. Cool. He's making it a thing, but you're in a position of where you're representing people. Maybe it's something that he's on the beat of. So maybe I'll take back my criticism until I know exactly what it is that he's doing. Here's more from this. Weblock monitors the trends of mobile devices that have location data activated and how often they've been to those locations. Tangles creates a day in the life profile of individuals based on mined social media data. It combines posts, contacts, locations, and events that they attended, combining it with any information leaked about them online. Forbes reported this, as well as captured images of a subject's face that can then be searched for in databases by using Tangle's AI-assisted tools. Do you see the sweeping nature of this? Location data, social media contacts and posts, people that you've been around, how many times you've been to certain locations, facial recognitions. It's all that stuff that it's weird that we always said before was going to be coming when technology-based things come in law enforcement from those rabid lunatic left-wingers are going to take over your world and start trying to get you for crimes that you didn't commit. It's weird how Trump's MAGA party is the one that's doing it after lying about it so many times. Last part of this article. ICE has praised Pinlink's products and in internal documents, noting the tools forego issues that they have had with previous services, which require analysts to manually collect and correlate data from fragmented sources. It makes their job much quicker. Quote, without an all-in-one tool that provides comprehensive web investigation capabilities and automated analysis of location-based data within specified geographic areas, intelligence teams face significant operational challenges. That's according to ICE documents. They're putting it all out there. They kind of have to say it because, they're promoting and advertising this. So it's the digital age of Nazi white supremacists in the United States of America. Let's not forget the fact that the United States of America had some sympathies towards Nazis back in the time when it was the first Nazis, but definitely not the first white supremacists. It's age old. That's why Stephen Miller sat his ass right back in that same seat with Donald Trump next to him and triggered the same thought process and mindsets of too many Americans that think white supremacy is the way to go. Make America great and America first are not slogans that just started under Donald Trump. A little bit of history works out. It'll help you realize what it is that's coming before it's fully implemented. And it's pretty much fully implemented, but the fight is coming. Okay. Let's jump to this next story, since, we fully recognize the white supremacist government that's running things. But currently the government actually isn't running. And this is where this battle goes back and forth about the blame game. Except Donald Trump doesn't really want to deal in talking about the blame game. He just puts out a bunch of things that clearly illustrates it's all up to him and it's what he exactly wants. Here's a video he put out.
Now their time has come. Here the power's gone. Rosewood is the reaper. He wields a pen, the thumbs and a brain. Here comes the reaper. Down to your baby. Here comes the reaper. Gonna tie your hands. Here comes the reaper. Won't be able to fly. Here comes the reaper. Baby, and your plan. Blah, 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 blah,
Donald Trump does like to post random things and they think it's funny, but there's always a message behind it. Even though his supporters that obviously are jazzed by it call it trolling, what that is a message to point out that Russ Vought, the guy that Donald Trump has in charge of firing more federal workers and slimming down the government even further now that it's in shutdown, as they act like they don't want that, even though that's what they've triggered. They have a whole song and dance about how he's the Grim Reaper. They're telling you to your face, we're here to kill this country. What other politician talks about how the people that they've appointed and the people that they've empowered are here to murder, are here to kill? And that's somehow a winning political message. He doesn't care about winning political messages. He told us during that last campaign, you're never going to have to vote again because once we're in power, we're going to take all those rights away. But to keep, the confused people further confused, after that video, I'm not sure of the timeline of it, but despite it, both times he posts one thing about how he and his buddies are the Grim Reaper, but somehow at the same time, he posts that the Democratic Party is dead. Maybe they got hit by that Grim Reaper, that murderous regime that you run, the party of hate, evil, and Satan. That one actually is a little funny. But the thing is for the people who believe all the things that he says, that's what they begin to ingest. They're like, oh man, they're evil. They actually want people to have health care. They want us to get something back for all the tax dollars that we pay. I can't believe that the conservative angels want to kill people. It's weird how we've completely flipped reality on its head. It's how this country ends when it literally lets the people that are destroying it, they embolden them to destroy it even further with these obvious cues of what it is that they're doing to us. But it's gotten so obvious. Don't forget, Russ Vought, as I point out in a small motion, in a small moment earlier this week, he's one of the architects of Project 2025. We're going to get to more details of that. But what struck me a little bit is that this is getting so blatant and out of hand that even folks on Fox News, one John Roberts, he couldn't help but to point out how Donald Trump once talked about how he knew nothing about this process, but now is completely celebrating it.
Comes in the form of what President Trump was saying on Truth Social about getting together with his OMB director, Russ Vought, to talk about changing the face of the federal government. He said, I have a meeting today with Russ Vought, he of Project 2025 fame, to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut, whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. Remember what Donald Trump said a year ago. I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who's behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. So I'm wondering, Francesca, did he just learn about Project 2025 in the last year, or did he know about it all along?
And it's also not clear, John, whether or not he was actually sitting there with Russ Vought and going line by line, himself, and deciding what is or isn't being cut here. Because, of course, prior to this, the Office of Management and Budget, as well as the Office of Personnel Management, they had sent out messages to these various agencies saying, no, you send us plans for who you think that you should cut, and then we'll approve them. And I will also note that one of the messages that was sent out last weekend told them, oh, by the way, we might also bring people back Act 2 to have the minimum number required to fulfill the statutory mandate. So it's not clear how many of these, even if they were fired, would be permanent, and how much of this is a strategy to try and get Democrats to the table.
Francesca Chambers didn't have to answer the question, which she didn't, of whether or not Donald Trump knew about Project 2025 before, if he's faking it now, as the panel chuckled about this fucking liar. Oh, can you believe the president lied during the campaign and so many people believed him? And now he's implementing exactly what it is that the folks who were calling this out and detailed the dangers of it are now going through. Isn't it funny? I mean, we're not sure if he's doing this to bring people to the negotiating table or not, but who cares? He's just a liar. This is how we got to this point. But over on CNN, they also did detail how many times Donald Trump denied that he knew anything about Project 2025, just to really drive the point home.
Of Trump, he said this morning I have a meeting today with Russ Vought of Project 2025 fame. Of course, that was the project that Democrats demonized, went after hard in the campaign.
They didn't demonize.
Look at this, and they
illustrated it
very hard on that. And then Donald Trump, when he was running for the second term, said, well, this Project 2025 thing, I don't really know much about it.
Some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 25, and I don't even know. They are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it.
I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it.
Project 2025, I've said 100 times, I know nothing about it. I had nothing to do.
And today, meeting of Russ Vought of Project 2025.
I'm still not sure why these news organizations are chuckling as they sit there and expose him. We really have to pay attention to the energy around these exposures. Manu Raju, I like the work that he does. He's really good at what he does. He reports on these folks, and for some reason they still give him all these answers, even though he keeps calling them out and exposing them for the things that they say and asking sometimes the questions that people should be asking. But as they're exposing this blatant lie, they don't go to that next step. It's like, he wasn't he lying there? Well, yes, he was. Why was he lying about it? And then what are we going to do about it? What is it that's going to be affected because of his lies on it? Because as he pointed out, Trump during his denials, he said this extreme Project 2025, people from the extreme right are on board with Project 2025. Now in October of 2025, he's saying how the guy who was one of the architects is the famous of Project 2025 fame. Suddenly, is Donald Trump now saying he's an extreme right-wing person? Is he a fascist? Because he just said he's on board, and that's what they want to do. It's all about them. Matter of fact, during those denials, I'm going to give you guys a flashback. There was some secret videos that were taken of folks that were acting like they were going to be donors or financial donors in support of this MAGA fascist party as they were running this campaign and preparing to try and get back into power. And Russ Vought spoke to the guy. This is what Russ Vought had to say about Donald Trump's denials. We ran this during the campaign. I just want to make sure you guys remember.
I expected to hear 10 more times from the rally, the president, distancing himself from the left's boogeyman of Project 2025.
Yeah. And you're not worried about that?
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
He's running against a brand. He is not running against any people.
Okay.
He is not running against any institutions. It's interesting. He's in fact not even opposing himself to a particular policy. Yeah. He's been at our organization. He's raised money for our organization. He's blessed it from the, I remember walking into our last day in office and told him what I was going to do. So he's very supportive of what we do. If a battle plan is out there that will do what he wants, there are the people like me that have his trust that will be able to get it to him in whatever position we're at, or I could be at Center for New America, but the relationships will be there. The trust level will be there.
No matter how many times Donald Trump denied it, we know we're going to be in these positions where we can influence him and affect him. We had this conversation, Russ Vought said, and he trusts me. We're going to implement this. he can deny it in front of them because they keep pushing this boogeyman of it. Except as you're talking behind closed doors about all these things you want to do, it's kind of like you're the boogeyman and you're real. Here's more from those secret tapes. This is part of what he wanted to implement.
%80 of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies. And we are working doggedly on that, whether it's destroying their agency's notion of independence. They're independent from the president.
Take control of these agencies and make sure that they lose that idea of independence from the president. So, again, these news organizations are talking about how Donald Trump knew nothing about Project 2025. He said so. And now that we've realized that he was lying, I'm sorry, the last few people that were gullible enough to not know he was lying are realizing that he was lying. They talk about it and chuckle rather than going through all of these old videos, old being by a year ago when they were exposed, about their detailed plans behind it. So if you point out he was lying, at least point out the results of us believing those lies. Why can't we ever finish the thought? Can you believe Donald Trump lied? Let's move on to the next story. How about once we realize Donald Trump lied, I'm sorry, the last 5 people realize that Donald Trump is a liar, that then we go talk about why it's important that he lied and why we're not seeing the truth and what the fuck you're gonna do in response to that. There's more secret tapes. They want to take over agencies. Remember that? Here's more.
Yeah. Because obviously you want as little of it to be FOIA-able, if you're familiar with the FOIA process, as possible. Freedom of Information Act, yeah.
The Freedom of Information Act allows the public to request government communications. But Meadowcroft reveals they plan to avoid these rules.
Yeah, the goal is, familiarize all the transition team people with these plans. Yeah. But you don't actually send them to their work emails because then, right. You could just give the handbooks to everyone. You're like, this is the game plan for the admin. Yeah. But if the press knows that that's what you're doing, then they're going to immediately just say, I request all of your emails from Heritage. Okay. You right. Worker. I see. So we'll see.
Interesting.
Weird. Secret conversations about how they'll avoid any accountability, how they'll hide their plans that they're writing on paper. They can't email them to each other, so they have to find some other kind of covert way to communicate their plans to destroy the country. And as we see that, we're not getting every news outlet talking about how Donald Trump and the Project 2025 folks and the Heritage Foundation were planning this from the beginning. This has been a rollout. The Heritage Foundation did not start in 2024. The Heritage Foundation has been around since forever. So this plan has been in effect since probably like the 80s. But they finally got their guy. They finally got the right messaging. They finally got enough people that are stupid and gullible and desperate enough to believe that this guy was some kind of populist candidate, when the whole time the plan has been to screw up your life, take your money, and control this country. Turn it into a dictatorship. But people were pulling their hair out when all that was happening. Maybe we should finally let folks know that when people sound the alarm on what a fascist is, with the proof behind it, allow people to hear it so they can start believing the truth rather than falling behind this guy because he posts random things that they call trolling and funny. Like I said, the mask is all the way off. Some of those enablers about what's going to happen, back to the government shutdown and Russ Vought, they can't even get their stories straight. Senator Mike Lee did this.
But this is what they're doing. They're doing it deliberately. It's going to harm them because Russ Vought, the OMB director, has been dreaming about this moment, preparing this moment since puberty. Russ Vought has a plan, and that plan is going to succeed in further empowering Trump. This is going to be the Democrats' worst nightmare, and it's of their own making.
Yeah,
But this is what...
Why is Mike Lee talking about Russ Vought during puberty? Like, this is how long he's been waiting to screw up this country. This is how long he's been planning to then coalesce more power for Donald Trump. They're saying it right in front of you. So all the denials about him wanting to be some kind of monarch and him being a fascist and all that. And then when senators, Republican senators, talk about how they're salivating at the opportunity for the government to be shut down so that they can then find a different avenue to fire more folks and then rehire only the ones who are supreme and utter loyalists so they can continue to behind closed doors and hide all of the information in the ways that they're screwing people's lives up and now monitoring us, which we saw in the last bit. He's celebrating it. Apparently, Russ Vought has been waiting since he was going through puberty. Ew. What's wrong with you, bro? He's not the only one, though. Recognize this ass kisser, too.
Chuck Schumer and the Democrats force a shutdown, which they now have, that President Trump is going to use that as an opportunity not to tell people you're furloughed for a few days, but instead to send pink slips and to get rid of left-wing bureaucrats who are imposing left-wing priorities that are contrary to President Trump's priorities. I think that is fantastic. And what it's going to do is it's going to cause Democrats in Congress to scream and weep and gnash their teeth. I cannot wait for the next Democrat lunch when they start screaming at each other, when they start seeing pink slips go out at the EPA, at the Department of Labor, at the IRS, and suddenly the bureaucrats that they are entrusting to advance their job-killing agenda are themselves without a job. That's what's going to end this shutdown, as the Democrats are realizing that President Trump is making major advances for economic liberty as a result of the Democrats' temper tantrum.
Isn't that weird? The basis for your political arguments as an entire political party is to talk about how, look at my oppositional party is going to be gnashing their teeth and so upset and sad. Nothing about how Americans that they're screwing over by destroying the economy, how they're going to be gnashing their teeth, unemployed. What is it about new jobs and an unleashing of more jobs that this guy's talking about? The last story talks about how that's a lie. I'm going to get to that in a second. They just keep lying. What new jobs are coming? What unleashing of American prosperity is happening? When is any of this stuff that they keep talking about Donald Trump is unleashing by narrowing power and the power of American people over their representatives and coalescing it and giving it to Donald Trump has anything to do with them prospering from it? Because where is that $17 trillion that he keeps talking about that he's bringing in? The plan is to keep you uninformed, to keep lying to you, and to keep spinning this story back and forth. Because remember, we have Mike Lee and we also have Ted Cruz celebrating Donald Trump's destruction of the government and Russ Vought being the Grim Reaper that's going to do it. The problem here is that they didn't give that memo to dumbass Mike Johnson, because Mike Johnson was doing his normal lying. You know, Moses was doing his normal lying, and he was trying to paint a different picture of that these other two didn't know was apparently
they have now effectively turned off the legislative branch, the Article 2 branch of, or the Article 1, sorry, the Article 1 branch of our government, and they've turned it over to the executive. Okay, so in that situation, when Congress turns off the funding and the funding runs out, it is up to the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, to determine how those resources will be spent. He has that responsibility given to him by the Democrats in the Senate. They can't complain about it, and he doesn't want to do it. But in this scenario, what they have to do is make very difficult decisions. Most of the responsibility falls to Russ Vought. He's the director of the Office of Management and Budget, as you know. Whomever is seated in the chair at OMB during a shutdown has to do the same thing. Russ does this reluctantly. We had a 45-minute telephone conference with him yesterday. He talked to all the House Republicans. He takes no pleasure in this because Russ has to sit down and decide, because he's in charge of that office, which policies, personnel, and which programs are essential and which are not. That is not a fun task, and he is not enjoying that responsibility. And it could end today if the Senate Democrats would come to their senses and do the right thing for the American people. But if they don't, and if they keep the government closed, it's going to get more and more painful because the resources run out and more things have to be reduced and eliminated. Now, when he sits down as the director of OMB.
Shut up. So Mike Johnson said that Roosevelt and Donald Trump reluctantly do this. Maybe we should ask Ted Cruz and Mike Lee if they reluctantly do this, because apparently, according to Mike Lee, Roosevelt has been wanting to do this since he hit puberty. But instead, Mike Johnson says that he's reluctantly going to do it. This is what this is. This is them thinking this is their extreme bargaining chip. This is them thinking and they can force Democrats into being too afraid and then agree to everything that they want, which, by the way, what they want is to continue to do the same things that they're going to try and do at a hyper speed with Roosevelt and Donald Trump. Let them do it. They're already destroying the country. They're already destroying the economy. Let them do it. They're taking ownership of it. They just said he's going to have to do it. He's been wanting to do it since he was a toddler. So since that's what they want to do, let them do it. We know how unpopular that was when they were stripping and slashing all these jobs. Let them keep talking about how it's going to bring this golden era of prosperity and an economy that no one could ever dream of, because you're not going to dream of it because it doesn't exist. So let them do it. Don't fall for that bluff. And if they go ahead with this, with dismantling more jobs and more agencies and trying to coalesce more power to Donald Trump, which they're going to do anyway, because this entire Republican Party in the Congress will let him do it, let them do it. There's no way anybody else can blame anyone for it except for the people who told you over and over again, this is what we're doing. Refer back to the video Donald Trump posted of the Grim Reaper who wants to do it. This isn't a hard equation. You're already getting your ass kicked because you didn't have anything to say to the American people. I'm talking about the Democratic Party. So don't act like now you have some kind of control over this. You gave away that control when you kept being nice while they're kicking your ass around. So let them do it and let them take the responsibility for it. It's what they want. Last story on a Friday, you guys. I promise, I swear, I was really trying to have something fun for Friday. But I mean, the lies flow so quickly and so easily. Sometimes you have to commit some time to dispelling them and pointing out exactly what these frauds' intentions really are. But I talked about that economy. Farmers are still suffering. You guys have seen plenty of farmers videos. But now what these MAGA Republicans are finally having to start to admit is that they're in trouble and we need to come with some kind of solution to it. Joni Ernst is one of the first ones, but they still try to have a spin to that. Check this out.
As a member of the Agriculture Committee from Iowa, I just want to get your reaction to President Trump considering $10 billion in aid to assist American farmers due to these tariff tensions. Obviously, a lot of farmers in your state. What do you make of this?
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, our farmers do need that assistance. They don't like it. They do consider it welfare. They want trade, not aid. And so we really need to see some of these new markets opening up around the globe. We need to see additional domestic consumption of our commodities like soybeans and corn. China is just not budging on this. And unfortunately, we've lost a lot of soybean contracts due to these elongated negotiations. But if there's anybody that can make a deal, it's President Trump. So we'll continue to hope for the best and we'll help our farmers where and how we can.
Yeah.
Hey, Joni Ernst, how does that work? Donald Trump's tariff policies, she just admitted, are destroying farmers' lives. Now he's floating a $10 billion bailout for them because, you know, he's destroying their lives. Based off of this economic policy, she even admitted that China is stonewalling this whole trade war that he started. Proudly, loudly announced that he's starting this trade war. So she squarely put the responsibility on Donald Trump, but then flipped back and said, the only person that can solve this is Donald Trump with his deal making. His deal making got you in the situation in the first place. So somehow is also deal making is going to get you out of it when you have no idea what you're going to do about it, except take $10 billion more of regular Americans' money and give it to farmers and act like that's some kind of economic policy. What kind of economic policies, consistent bailouts for a destruction of the economy and these soybean farmers' livelihoods makes any sense? The thought process is always just to say blame the last administration, or I'm sorry, especially if it's Biden or someone, definitely blame the last administration for it, as you just pointed out whose fault it is. This is how dire the situation is. Here's one of those soybean farmers. You know I was going to find one of them.
Our entire cost structure has gone here, but our revenue has done this. So this is where we find ourselves for the last 2-3 years, kind of, and it's quite challenging. I mean, it's a bloodbath, or becoming one.
And on top of all of that, these farmers are dealing with extremely high input costs. So the message comes at an important time. On top of that, last week, President Trump said he'd like to give the revenue from tariffs to farmers. We have not seen a concrete plan for that yet, but farmers like Chris Gould are waiting to find out more.
Why is she standing in the middle of a field? I don't know. I guess it makes for a more on-the-scene reporter. Anyways, Fox Business even had to admit, talking to a soybean farmer, it's a bloodbath, bro. It's a bloodbath. So, of course, you know, $50 billion, 10, I don't remember how many billions of dollars they're saying they're billing these folks out with. It's squarely on their shoulders. And again, depending on which news source you're watching, I guess over on CNBC, Scott Bessent thinks that he can continue this lie anyway. I want you to try and guess who Scott Bessent is blaming this on, despite all the reality you just
And Joe, to go back on the ag purchases and President Trump's phase 1 trade deal that was signed in January 2020, there were over 50 billion of ag purchases. The Chinese followed through during President Trump's term in 2020, and then under President Biden, their feet were not held to the fire for these ag purchases. And at the meeting in Geneva, when I asked them, why didn't you continue buying soybeans and the other products, they had one word. Guess what it was? Biden.
Biden. Oh, that sounds like malarkey. Come on, man. Oh.
Even this guy over on CNBC had to say that's bullshit. That's bullshit, Scott Bessent. He talked to the folks about these ag purchases and said it was Biden. They had one word. All they said was Biden, because that's how people talk to him. I'm surprised he didn't say, they said, sir, it was Biden. God, they're not even good at lying. They don't care that they're bad at lying. They don't care that everyone knows that they're frauds, but it's somehow Biden's fault for not forcing them with these ag purchases. Not the fault of the guy who said, I'm starting a trade war and I don't need China. He said, we don't need China. They need us more than we need them. But somehow those same folks said, Biden. What a liar. I'm glad he called malarkey. How about you call him a fucking liar? Let's go with normal words like that. Let's move to jobs reports. There's another farmer I wanted to talk about, but whatever. He's saying similar things. We're screwed. Donald Trump screwed us. But then again, maybe we can get some help. That's the part. That's the quick version of it. So in case you guys, plenty of people are saying it, and I understand it. How about all these farmers that voted for Donald Trump now crying and whining? It affects us all, but that's not the only thing that he's screwing up with his economic policies. He's also screwing up the job market, screwing up wages, and screwing up inflation. Maria Bartiromo had to admit it too.
We did just get the ADP jobs data, and the number is down 32,000 jobs in the month of September versus an expectation of a gain of 50,000 jobs for the month of September. So worse than expected. Markets were down going into the number and remained lower. We did just get the ADP.
Things aren't looking very good. I honestly, I've played a lot of Maria Bartiromo whenever she gives the bad news of what's going on, because she's always been the one that's been kissing ass and trying to somehow excuse all of these policies, because she's the business person. She's on Fox Business to talk about how great Donald Trump is despite everything that we see. They also had Lori Chavez DeRemer on. She's also an official in Trump administration, and she has to answer some questions about why these things look this bad, why the job report continues to be horrible. horrible over and over. Let's not forget, that's not just September's job report. We're talking about like most of this year. Every month, it's horrible. That's why they fired the commissioner of Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's why they're now delaying the next report coming out. That's why this report had to be from the ADP numbers. Here's the lie.
Yeah. So the jobs number is not out today for September, but will you release the September jobs number after the government reopens?
Well, certainly what we want to see at BLS is to have those numbers out. Why? The markets depend on it. Businesses depend on it. You know that, Maria. Every decision is made on a lot of these accurate numbers. The president has been clear over the last few months that the commissioner under the Biden administration was, out of that job. And we're hoping that new nominee comes in as soon as the White House determines who that is, so we can get those accurate numbers out to the American people. Everything that we do under the Department of Labor, as well as the economy, counts on accurate data points and modernization of those numbers. So we're going to be working hard, looking forward for that, to release those numbers. Listen, we saw the ADP numbers come out. They weren't the best,
Sure did.
but we see the momentum because all indicators of this economy is that it is going to keep growing. And under this president and this leadership and under the Department of Labor, we're going to continue to move full force ahead so we can grow this economy. It is all about upskilling and reskilling and making sure that we have the people.
Based on what? When is somebody going to ask that next question? She said these job numbers weren't the best. In fact, they suck. That's actually the accurate statement. But we see the momentum. If you don't know anything about this, if you believe everything that they say, I feel like the next natural question, if as you're seeing reality in front of you and you're like, man, these things suck. Look at these job numbers the past several months. Look at the inflation reports. Look at the destruction of our economy. Look at these tariff deals that don't exist. Where's all this money? Where's the golden age? I feel like the next question you would ask someone who says it's that we see the momentum, you'd be like, oh, that's inspiring. Where do you see the momentum? It's not even a gotcha question. They should be able to answer where the momentum is if they're feeling, jazzed about momentum. This same woman lied some more. She was on Fox Business still. Here it comes. Slow moving.
But certainly in this administration and as a former member of Congress, for them to not see that they are hurting the American people. We've been on a momentum of job gains. We've been working so hard across the country to make sure that we are growing this economy and, really having the workforce investments that we've been doing to only see it come to a screeching halt. While we're not going to get the jobs numbers report because they will not open this government, we want to keep the momentum going. I mean, that's been the goal as I've traversed this country. We're seeing consumer confidence up. We're seeing businesses want to reinvest in their workforce. And this is only, a real screeching halt for the American people. And it's unfortunate that the Democrats don't see that they're fighting for the American people and they're going to pay.
Well, I mean, the data, though, where we are. I mean, we've had 3 months of slowing jobs. We know we don't have the numbers for September, but is there anything you could tell us about the jobs picture today?
Yeah, what we're seeing is the investments. I was just in Michigan at Ford, and I met with Bill Ford. I met, with other investors, CEOs who are putting the workforce together. We have to upskill and reskill. We heard more than once that we're short of our welders, our construction workers. It's important that we have those tradesmen and women building this country. That's what the president laid the groundwork with a lot of these trade deals. And to see the investments that these companies are making, trillions of dollars, now be stopped. That's the unfortunate part. But we've seen the confidence grow for the American economy. Look at GDP, 3.8%. So all of the indicators that you've seen from your economists on the show have shown that we're moving in the right direction. So while we've seen the numbers kind of hold steady, the goal is to not stop the momentum. And that's what we're hoping for the American people. They're
using the shutdown to even excuse their horrible job numbers. They're horrible job numbers that didn't come around just in the past couple of days when the shutdown began. They're just using it for every excuse possible. Honestly, I don't think normal thinking Americans are buying it. I really don't. We're seeing it, and then every result that is destructive of people's lives, which the next one will be all these folks with their rising healthcare premiums, which is the one thing the Democrats are holding out for. I mean, unless they fold from these empty threats that these guys keep making. But that's the one thing that you'll then see next. They can't blame them for all these. It's a constant threat. Where are these investments that she was just talking about? At least you maybe started answering that question about this momentum, except it's a lie. Where are these investments? Why are businesses not able to hire these laborers, these welders, and all these hardcore blue collar workers if the investments are all over the place? If people are investing and have tons of money in the economy and are building new factories and all this stuff, where is it? Where is it? How is it people are losing jobs when people are apparently getting hired? It doesn't make any sense. It also doesn't make sense that I went over again. I was going to be done within an hour today, you guys, but now I'm done in an hour and a couple minutes after. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that economy, give you a heads up on the fascism that's running through the country, and also that white supremacy that continues to roll downhill. You see a Nazi, punch him in his nose. That's I guess the parting words for this week of fascism in the United States of America. For all you guys that hung around before Damage Report just started, I appreciate you. I thank you. But if you guys are leaving even right now, make sure you click the like button as you roll out of here. These stories will be up on the channel later. We'll be back on Monday to do some more of this. Some fun times. Hopefully we'll be had maybe some more exposure to these things, or maybe this government shutdown will be over and Republicans will fold. Come on, bro. It's not gonna happen. Anyways, thank you guys again. Appreciate you. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend if you get the opportunity to. And we'll catch you guys on Monday. Tell the Damage Report I say hey. But don't yell. Don't get suspended. See you later, Mom.